Welcome back.
Hey, long time no see.
Yeah, so we tried to record this about an hour ago, and we broke ChatGPT.
We did.
We're back. So, everybody, we're here today. I'm here with Noah Randolph of Ravenous Coffee.
What's up?
And Noah is going to sit with us with ChatGPT. ChatGPT is very popular right now, so of course we had to make a video about it. But the interesting thing that I want to kind of discuss and use this as a way to discuss this is, can such a platform as this help people learn about coffee? So we know a good amount about coffee. It's kind of our day-to-day life. Mm-hmm. I spend a lot of time with coffee, been teaching coffee for quite a while now. And I think it might be kind of interesting to see what it says. So we started by asking it, what is coffee? And it says that coffee is a popular beverage that's made by brewing roasted coffee beans in water. It is typically served hot, although it can be served hot or iced or blended or with other ingredients to create a variety of different coffee drinks. Blah, blah, blah. Millions of people around the world. The caffeine content will give you stimulating. Okay, etc. Okay,
wow.
that's a very specific answer. Mm-hmm. Okay. I think let's be more specific with it and ask, what is specialty coffee, maybe?
What is specialty coffee?
This might give us a more interesting answer. So specialty is used to describe coffee that has been graded by the SCA and received a score of 80 or above out of 100 points. That's a very good starting point.
Didn't you say 85, though?
I do say 85, and I think it's actually because the SCA, we're just going to look this up right now, SCA coffee
We might have caught them already.
Let's see. All right.
Okay.
This is the specific here. Coffee scoring from 90 to 100 is outstanding. Coffees that score from 85 to 89.9.
Excellent.
But 80 is the lowest acceptable score.
Lowest acceptable. Okay.
So I would say with most of the coffees that we serve and that you use, they're usually 85 or higher.
Yeah. They're not going to be lower than 85.
So that is, again, back to the answering of that question we did on the podcast episode we just recorded. That is, we were talking about what are we seeing in the next 5 years with specialty coffee. One of those things was coffee being, in my mind, this is just something that I just thought of, being 85 or higher. I think it's something that we're just kind of seeing more and more roasters lean towards.
So check out the podcast episode to know what we're talking about.
Check it out. So let's keep reading this. So specialty coffee is typically produced by small independent coffee growers and roasters who are very passionate about creating the best possible experience for their customers. It's all good, etc. In addition to quality of beans, also known for unique and complex flavor profiles, variety factors, origin, roasting, brewing method used, often used in specialty cafes and coffee shops, etc. Attention to detail. So far, this is pretty good. This is good. This is accurate. Yeah. I think I've never really thought about introducing someone to specialty coffee just in the general scoring of things, but it makes a lot of sense.
It does.
So what do we want to ask ChatGPT next?
Let's ask, what is coffee extraction?
Coffee extraction. Okay. Let's see. All right, so coffee extraction refers to the process of extracting the soluble compounds, flavors, and aromas from coffee grounds using hot water. Very basic. Process turns it to a flavorful aromatic beverage. I think this is all pretty accurate, but let's try and get more specific with it. So let's say, again, this is like to ask if I'm not, I'm a beginner and I'm thinking about extraction, right? What is a way to prevent over extraction
in coffee?
Coffee.
It's to specify that.
I think it knows, but
does it?
Yeah. Brew too long or water's too hot, resulting in a bitter and unpleasant taste. Oh, here comes some bullet points. Here's some ways to prevent it per ChatGPT. Okay. So grind size, water temperature, dosage, brewing time.
Ideal temperature for brewing coffee is between 195 and 205. That's pretty darn accurate.
Yeah.
And they even put Celsius, 90 C to 96. Good job. Good job, Cat Chat.
We always use Celsius. Here's what I'm kind of interested about. It's talking about in tablespoons, right?
That's pretty bad. Yeah.
So tablespoons, the problem with that is that it's not accurate. So if, let's say we want a specific measurement, so let's ask ChatGPT. So it's telling us, you told us that we should use 1 to 2 tablespoons per 6 ounces of water. Let's ask it specifically, what kind of weight would this be? Would his be in grams? Let's see what it says. Okay.
One tablespoon of coffee is approximately equal to 5 grams. So using 1 to 2 tablespoons of coffee per 6 would be equivalent to using 13 to 30 grams of coffee per.
That is such a big range.
Let me get my calculator out here. Let's see what the ratio is. Let's ChatGPT's ratio. So if we go with the lowest number here, which is 15 divided by,
or 177 divided by 15, right?
Yeah. Math. By 15. That's a 1 to 12 at the
that's
lowest.
pretty low.
And then
this 30 grams.
30 divided by 30. That's that's
1 to 6 almost.
Yeah.
Again, we're just testing this. We know a lot about it, so we're kind of poking fun at it and trying to see what it does. But as a note, we want to use grams when we're measuring. We don't use tablespoons, because even ChatGPT is like, it's between 15 and 30 grams. That's a very large difference, I would say. Okay, but then again, it kind of catches itself at the end. It says, keep in mind, this is a general guideline. The exact amount of coffee may be very based on personal preferences and the brewing method used. So let's ask about...
We're laughing at it.
It does. I'm curious about the brewing method used. So I am using a V60. A lot of people have a V60. So we'll be very specific. A Hario V60 size 02. What sort of ratio should I use? Maybe I should put water to coffee ratio.
Yeah.
Water to coffee ratio. Okay, 16 to 1.
16 to 1. All
nice.
Right.
Okay, now it's telling me how to do all this. Wow.
It's actually doing a good job.
Yeah. 12 ounces of water.
Here's how you can calculate the amount of coffee and water you'll need for a single cup.
So again, back to teaching someone. This is really good and detailed, but I think that this is kind of too much in the weeds for if you were just teaching someone about coffee.
Yeah.
I think I would just tell somebody that if 1 to 16 is our kind of common ratio, I would just say, how much coffee you want to make? They would tell me, and then I would just say, I would have a number for them instead of using, because again, they're using ounces again here. They're saying 12 ounces. If you're using a 12-ounce cup of coffee, you'll need 12 ounces of water. Which actually, that's not true either, because you got to think about like retention. So it's like if you brew with 12 ounces of water, you're not going to get 12 ounces of liquid.
Yeah.
You'll get more like 10 ounces of liquid. So there's a lot of things like specifics. But I think 1 to 16, that's a pretty standard. So let's ask it maybe kind of help it come back a little bit. So remember, it started telling us like 1 to 12 seems to where it was starting at with that 15 gram dosage. So when do you use, we'll say in this order, 12 to 1 ratio for brewing? Again, I bet it's going to say personal preference. Relatively strong ratio. Often used when making espresso? What? 12 drip coffee. Not commonly used. Ultimately, the water will depend on your personal taste. Again, this is something I've noticed about ChatGPT for how I interact with it, at least, is a lot of times it does kind of catch itself doing this neutrality kind of statement where it's like ultimately, it's up to you. It's what you want to do. And I'm like, okay, I mean, that's cool, but what if I wanted more clear answers? So, again, 1 to 12, I don't know why it's saying, maybe it's understanding 1 to 12 as 1 to 2. So, let me ask it specifically. So, you're saying...
There you go.
If I'm using 12 grams of espresso at 1 to 12, what is that?
12 times 12 is
144. 144 grams of water out.
Yes, that's correct.
For espresso, I mean 12 grams, which is typically achieved in 25. Do you mean the ratio... The more common ratio. Now we're just making fun of it. Common ratio of 1 to 2 or 2 to 1.
Oh, that's great.
That seems kind of more.
Yes, you're correct.
Twice as much water. Okay. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. Okay, so it made a bit of a mistake. 12-1, that's crazy. So if you don't know,
Did it just respond to that because you called it out though?
I think so. But if you don't know,
Mm-hmm.
you know brewing coffee on espresso 12-1, that's kind of crazy. That's not really normal. 2-1, 3-1,
Yeah, no.
that's more common.
Yeah.
I would say. So just in case if you're not initiated.
Best way to brew coffee. Yeah. I'm just curious.
Like the brewing device?
Yeah, best brewing device. Yeah. Like best brewing method for coffee.
Let's see what it says here.
Ooh, it has to think. There's no single best brewing method for coffee. It ultimately depends on personal taste preference.
We have here's the following. We have pour over, French press, AeroPress, espresso. It's going to depend on your individual taste or preferences. Okay. All right. I think that's a fine
Very
answer.
neutral answer.
Very
like you were
neutral
saying.
answer.
Yeah.
Which is kind of how I answer stuff a lot of times too, honestly. Okay, so if it's saying this, let's kind of try and throw it a beginner question that maybe could get wrong. So like let's ask it something, or maybe this kind of has like a lot of different opinions about it. Like what about freshness? Let's talk about freshness.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
So does freshness matter? If so, how fresh should my coffee be? I'll provide some context for this too.
There you go.
For you all, not ChatGPT. ChatGPT can get it out. Flavorful within 1 to 2 weeks.
Oh, that's
This
good.
time flavors will start to deteriorate, so they'll go stale or flat. They can be a month after the roast date, especially if they're stored properly. Sure, you're using, okay, this is good stuff for the most part. To ensure that you're using fresh coffee, it's a good idea to buy beans from a reputable roaster. Of course. Okay.
Like me.
There you go. Like Ravenous. So one thing though that we've been talking about a lot is how hyper light coffees, like your coffees and how you roast for us, is that we want to let them rest longer because they're lighter. This just has to do with CO2 that's trapped, and whenever it's just rested, CO2 is off gas and it becomes a lot more dynamic. I think one thing that ChatGPT is maybe not answering here, they're saying that the flavors maybe change over time. I think the biggest thing that is a misinterpretation is that it's aroma that's getting lost. That is because where you lose aroma, you gain in complexity is kind of what I've noticed.
That makes sense.
So it might not be as aromatic when you open a bag that you've let rest for a few weeks or a month, but it will be far more dynamic. It won't have as much volatility whenever you're trying to brew it in. That's a big thing about dialing in fresh coffee is that you have kind of this big window. So what should we follow this question up with?
Should I throw my coffee away?
My coffee away. That's a very vague question. Unpleasant odor, stale taste, mold. Okay, obviously if it's molded, that's your expiration date. Safe to consume if it's gone stale, but it's not gonna taste as good. It's best to discard it and throw a fresh batch.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay. I never thought about asking when should I throw away my coffee. Let's ask another question, a more philosophical question. Is throwing away coffee unethical?
Unethical.
I'm going to be more specific to people within the specialty coffee industry. See what it tells us. Not considered unethical. Part of necessary control process. Okay. Coffee professionals may set to minimize waste and reduce their environmental impact. Example, I may donate or compost coffee grounds, find ways to repurpose that isn't suitable drinking. Okay. Especially coffee industry values quality and sustainability. Sustain coffee, wow. And while some waste may be available, efforts are made to reduce waste. Okay. All right.
There you go.
That's a pretty good answer,
Yeah,
ChatGPT.
yeah,
I like it.
yeah,
I like it.
good job.
I like it. What are some more beginner questions that we could ask you? I'm thinking like stuff that maybe would be covered at a Coffee 101 or greater.
Yeah. Are light roast or dark roast better?
Ooh. I bet it's going to give us a neutral answer. Are a light roast or dark roast better? Personal preference. Okay, but this is going to be interesting. Okay. So light roast is lighter in color and lighter body, retains more natural characteristics. That's very true.
Yep.
Generally a more complex flavor profile. Sour or tangy taste? We'll have to come back to that one. That's interesting.
That is an interesting, yeah.
More caffeine. I think that's true. I think it's generally accepted as truth.
It is, yeah.
Darker in color, has a heavier body, more uniform flavor profile, have bitter taste, less acidic. That is true.
Mm-hmm.
And then less caffeine. Ultimately, again, this is like the fourth time it said this. Personal taste preference. Okay, I'm really curious. Slightly sour or tangy. Do you resonate with that? Does that make a lot of sense to you?
Yeah, I understand what they're going for there, but like for certain coffees, yes. For other coffees, no.
Sure.
Like a light Kenya is not gonna taste like that.
Right.
A light Guatemala won't taste like that. You
Right.
know? Some will taste like celery. You know, especially if you roast it too light.
Like, are they talking like underdevelopment? Do you think maybe is that what that kind of thing?
I think what they're going for is I think they're trying to say like there's gonna be an aspect to it that if you're used to dark roasts, like I think they're kind of like thinking about a person that like would have a dark roast idea of coffee, you know,
Sure.
like if I have just a Folgers idea of coffee and then taste a light roast, it's going to taste a little bit more sour than what I'm used to coffee tasting like. Does that make sense? You know,
it does. Yeah. Okay. So that makes sense. Let's maybe ask. I'm kind of curious about roast development now that we're talking about this. So maybe we can ask some specific regions, like what region or what coffee growing region does best with light roasts.
Yeah.
With light roasts or light development. We'll be more specific with it. Throw a big coffee word in there. If I can spell it. African coffees.
African, yeah. There you go.
What if it just names all of them? Central American, South American. Influence, altitude, soil type, processing method. Yeah, I think this, again, with its neutral answers, this is a very good kind of thing to note.
Yeah.
Is that it does have to do with topography in a great deal.
Yeah.
So
did it mention elevation though? That's a question.
So what about? So do we want to ask it that?
Yeah.
So like,
it did mention elevation. It should tell you what. Higher quality if it's a higher elevation. I'm not sure I'd go with that, ChatGPT. I understand. Wow. That's
that's kind of a hot take.
That's a hot take.
I mean, yeah, because I really love Brazil's.
Yeah. And
I have a soft spot for Guatemala.
Yeah.
Relatively
Lower elevation coffees can be high quality.
Interesting. This is because coffee plants grow in a higher elevation experience cooler temperatures, which slows down the ripening process. Okay, so maybe what they should have said here is that it has higher quality, is that it is maybe more complex.
Yeah.
I could say that would be a little bit
Where's
more
your
fair.
little like up to personal taste qualificator here, bud?
Seriously. There are exceptions to this rule. Oh, here it is.
Oh, okay.
There are exceptions to this rule. Low elevations can be high quality, but ultimately the quality of coffee depends on many factors, including the variety of coffee, climate, soil conditions, and skill of farmer and roaster. That's interesting that it's highlighted.
I mean, that's fair.
I mean, it makes sense. But okay, I'm curious about specifically now that we're on elevation. Back to roast development. So, what does elevation have to do with roast development?
That's a great question.
All right, higher elevation is harder and denser, lower moisture content, cooler temperatures, which I already talked about. Becomes denser and harder. Harder, denser coffees are more difficult to roast than softer, less dense beans because they require more energy to heat up and develop. So higher elevations may require a longer roast time and a higher roast temperature to fully develop. Do you agree with that?
Which part?
As a result, coffee beans grow. Higher elevations require a longer roast time or higher roast temperature to fully develop their flavor.
That's yes and no.
Okay.
I would say they require more heat to roast.
Because when a longer
but roast time is a personal preference of the roaster.
Okay.
So like I would say yes, if you have a higher elevation coffee, you're gonna want to up your temp in your roaster to deal with it, to compensate with that. But like you don't necessarily time wise have to. It's that I mean, I have noticed that some higher elevations take longer in the roast to get to first crack because of that, but that shouldn't be the case if you're upping your temp, if that makes sense. You know?
Yes. Okay. Interesting. I think we should switch gears and ask it some more different questions. We'll ask it a few more questions.
Let me ask it a really specific roasting question, though. I'm just curious what it does with a very specific roasting question. So this will be weird, but what is a typical coffee roaster profile?
Like that?
Mm-hmm. Is it just going to be very general? Okay. It's giving me some specifics. I love it. Okay. I'll be able to tell you if this is good or not. That's right. Number 1 is right. That's pretty typical.
So we're starting off with preheating.
That's pretty typical. Charge the coffee. Yep. That's the heat is gradually increased to begin the roasting process. The drying phase, temperature is increased to remove moisture. Yep, that's about right. There's the Maillard reaction. That's right. Okay, so they are going for a very increase throughout this whole thing.
Right.
That's a very Scott Rao way to roast. So just keep that in mind. This is a very they are presenting this as if this is the way, and it is not. This is a very very debated thing, which is why I asked this question.
So what would you, if you're saying that this is kind of a typical, and even Scott Rao specifically, what?
So
what would you change?
Like this part, number 1, you wouldn't change.
Okay.
Number 2,
that makes sense.
Number 2, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do 3. You don't have to do 4. Pretty much 2 through 4, completely up to personal preference. Doesn't have to be increase in temp through all those. And then the temperature is kept steady while the beans continue to develop. That's also you don't have to do that. You could raise the temperature there. 5 definitely. And then cooling. So 1 and 6 are correct. 2 through 5, you have a lot of different opinions on how to do that, but that is that's the standard, I will say. So
so again, it catches itself at the end here. It says this is just one example.
Yeah, there we go.
Profile. Yeah. But let's just ask it. What if you just ignored steps 2
through 5?
Through 5.
Well, you still have to drop the beans in too. But yes, I think. Did your own thing.
A suboptimal roast. They're crucial. Skipping the drying phase, uneven roasting, and a lack of sweetness. Skipping the Maillard reaction, a lack of depth. You skip the development phase. The coffee may be under roasted. Interesting addition. Delicate process requires precise control of temperature. I would say that's pretty true.
Oh yeah. The precise control of temperature is a part of it.
Right.
And I want to make it clear. I'm not saying you should skip the phases.
Sure.
You keep the phases. You don't have to increase your temperature in those phases. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. It's generally tried and true profile to make adjustments gradually rather than ignoring the standard profile. So they're calling this. Let me ask them. So does that mean? So are you calling this the above the standard roasting profile? Because that seems kind of like I mean,
it's pretty bold.
Because I said typical, and they're saying standard. It's a little different, right? Standard. Okay, so
now they went back to
typical. Okay, all right. They kind of changed a little bit there. So I'm curious to ask it maybe a question or two about maybe something that early on in your coffee brewing journey that someone might have, like they may have something come up. Maybe it's like a grinder issue. Maybe it's like some kind of troubleshooting question. what we can ask ChatGPT. What should we ask them? We kind of touched our toe into the idea of extraction, which is a big one.
I mean, you could ask one that I get all the time. Is,
okay.
Because my coffees always do this.
Okay.
One I get all the time is, your coffee's always finished in 5 minutes. What can I do to make it finish in 3?
Okay. So how can I make a coffee that's going from 5 minutes to 3?
Yeah.
How can I bet it's going to just tell us grind size. How can I brew a coffee?
I bet it will.
That is ending in 5 minutes. I'll just write 5 minutes actually. To end in 3 minutes. All right, grind. I'll grind finer.
That's a hot take.
Interesting. Increase the surface area, faster extraction, but not go too fine. It's going to result in ultra extraction. That is like a very... We'll come back to that one.
Yeah.
Increasing the water temperature. This is definitely true. I would say above all.
Yeah. Water temperature increase does make it faster.
Yeah, because we'll a lot of times with your coffees, because we like the softer profiles, we tend to kick that temp down to like 88 Celsius or something.
Yeah.
But absolutely, I've been in Kalito lately with like 98 Celsius, and it does brew several minutes faster.
Yeah.
Increase the water flow rate. So if you're using a pour over method, the water rate from your kettle.
They did not mention agitation.
They did not.
That's a big one.
So do you think that agitation?
I really think agitation's the secret because
faster brew times.
To faster brew times. Yeah, I really do.
Let's ask it what it thinks about it.
Okay.
Would introducing
water flow rates.
It would we want decreased, right? That's what I meant to say.
Decreasing agitation.
Oh, so you're saying to decrease agitation or increase?
Just decrease. You would decrease. Especially with like a suboptimal grinder.
I see.
The which is what most people would have at home. That's not dissing your grinder. It's just anything you buy under like $500 is going to be a suboptimal grinder.
So decreasing agitation, decrease brew time. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah. Would decreasing agitation decrease brew time? Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
we broke it again.
Maybe that's for the best. Okay, maybe we'll continue this another day, but these are just some general questions. I'm really curious to hear what other people have with ChatGPT, specifically asking them coffee questions. We started by asking them what is coffee, what is specialty coffee extraction. What are some other questions that you want us to continue in this thread to ask? And what are some things that maybe you're learning in your coffee journey that you think either we could help you with, or that ChatGPT is not helping you with? So this has been interesting little experiment.
It did a way better job than I thought it would.
Sure,
It's really cool.
There were some super specific things that we were like, well, actually. But I think in general, I think this can be a good learning tool, especially for beginners. And that's kind of like the biggest argument I've had for it. Of course, I have my thoughts otherwise, but that's a different video for a different YouTube channel. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Give us a thumbs up, like and subscribe, all that stuff. Hit us up in the comments, email us, do all that kind of stuff. So come see us at Boycott. Try Ravenous Coffee.
Always.
Until next time. Thanks, Noah.
Bye.